I moved into a 2-bed house with my husband and 3-month-old daughter. We had been living a bit cramped at my parents' place, so was delighted to finally get our own space. On the day we moved in, I accidentally kicked up a loose floorboard and looked underneath it. To my surprise, there was a porcelain doll. Much like the rest of the house, it was old and dusty, but she had a certain charm to her, and when I touched it, I felt an energy, so I decided to keep her. The doll cleaned up pretty good, revealing a face as pure as snow and eyes as dark as coal. On the back of her neck, underneath brown hair, was a handwritten name. It was quite faded, but with a magnifying glass, we were certain it said Anna. We kept the doll on the floor with other toys in the baby's room. During the next few nights, while we were in bed, we would hear whispering and movement. At first, we thought it might be the baby, but when we checked, our daughter would be fast asleep in her cot. Then one afternoon, while I was laying the baby down to sleep in her cot, I felt something gently pull at my skirt. And when I looked down, I expected to see Tabitha, our ginger cat, but instead I saw Anna, the porcelain doll, laying at my feet. I had no idea how she moved from the corner of the room to my feet, yet alone pull up my skirt. It was then that my husband and I started to joke that the doll must be haunted. While out shopping one day, we decided to buy a baby monitor, which we fitted to the baby's room. Then about 3 o'clock in the morning, we heard our baby wake and start crying via the monitor, but there was also another sound, the faint sound of laughter and music. We rushed to the room and was puzzled to see Anna sitting inside the cot with the baby, and the mobile above the cot turning round and round, playing music as it turned. Neither of us had moved the doll, and you had to physically wind the mobile up for it to start turning, which our baby was too young to do. We removed the doll from the room, and the next day decided that it was getting a bit too creepy, and that the haunted doll theory wasn't funny anymore. So we threw the doll out with the trash, and there have been no creepy incidents ever since. I have always had a fascination with the supernatural, so when I saw a haunted porcelain doll for sale on the internet, it made me curious, and after staring at it for a while, I decided to buy it. When I received the package and opened it, I thought it looked innocent enough. It was quite old, with a long shabby black dress, and it had scuffs and scrapes to her face, with warm black cotted hair. The advertisement I bought her from said the doll had a habit of moving on its own, showing up in unexpected places, so I placed her in the spare room where I kept other toys and dolls. Because of her long black hair and dress with a pale coloured face, I decided to call her Morticia, after the character from the Addams Family. Disappointingly, several days went by with no movement from Morticia. Then one day, as I went to climb the stairs, the doll was sitting on the top step. I have no way of explaining how the doll got there, as I live on my own and had no visitors to the house on that particular day. This happened several more times, with Morticia turning up in different places. I spoke to my boyfriend about it, who also had an interest in the supernatural and had experimented with electronic voice phenomena. So one night we left the tape recorder running, hoping we would capture the voice of a spirit on tape. And when we checked it the next morning, sure enough, there were several phrases spoken in a strange but genteel voice. The clearest of the 3 phrases captured on the recorder was the words, "I want to play." Everyone I show Morticia to thinks she's ugly and creepy, but I wouldn't part with her, especially with the childlike spirit she has attached to her. Me and my husband took a walk in the park one day. It was midsummer and quite warm. On the way back home, we came upon a yard sale and decided to take a look. My husband bought some work tools, but I didn't find anything. But on the way out, I noticed a doll's head sticking out of a box. I pulled her out and examined it. It looked quite old, and I was drawn to her porcelain face. Her long floral dress was shabby and worn, but I couldn't stop staring at her face, so I brought it and carried her home in my arms. As we walked along, I found myself talking to her, and it wasn't till after a few moments I realised what I was doing. I looked embarrassingly at my husband, who was laughing, then discreetly looked around to see if anyone else had seen me, a grown adult talking to a porcelain doll. That night, as I slept, I thought I heard the doll tell me her name was Elena. I don't know if I had dreamt it or imagined it. I just knew that from now on, the doll would be called Elena. The doll was kept on a rocking chair in our bedroom, and every time I was near her, I just felt an amazing energy. Her eyes followed me around the room. That very day, and for several days after, when we were downstairs, we would sometimes hear a noise from our bedroom, as if the chair Elena sat in was rocking back and forth. But when we checked the room, everything was still and silent. Then one night we went to bed at our usual time of 10 o'clock, and we both quickly fell asleep. But in the middle of the night, as I turned over, something touched my face. I opened my eyes, and staring back at me was Elena. I let out a little scream which woke my husband, who swore he never moved the doll. Later that month we had a yard sale of our own, and just like me weeks before, a young lady picked up Elena out of a box and took her home.